You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up the better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Deku Enters How to Train Your Dragon. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Logsnake on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. This is VERYYYY. Situated in the middle of storming seas, the big piece of rock withstands wave after rough wave. And in one protected outcropping sits my village. In a word, sturdy. It's been around for 7 generations, but every single building is new. We have hunting, fishing, and a charming view of the sunsets. The only problem are the pests. You see, while most places have mice or mosquitoes, we have dragons, shouts the man to my left as I stumble through the burning village, swimming like a salmon upstream toward the blacksmith shop. Now you may be wondering why we don't just leave. Well, we're a clan of warriors, bred to fight and on a noble mission to save all of mankind or something. Get back inside. Someone get that Deku off the field. Yes, those people are shouting at me. My name's Izuku, or Deku to some. Around here, Deku means useless, which is why tonight I am going to prove them wrong. Tonight I am going to kill a dragon. The crowd has thinned out by this point as folks rush around fighting. Once upon a time I suggested we get a fire department, but everything will always just get burned down anyway. Next, I designed stone houses for the village since we have no shortage of rock, and who doesn't want to protect the environment by not killing trees. However, we are nothing is not a tradition-oriented people, or at least the chief is, so that idea didn't go over too well. I push my way through the blacksmith shop and look toward the man sharpening a blade. Toshinori Yagi, the infamous All-Might and MSTR of my apprenticeship. These days he is a scrawny skeleton with the burning eyes of a warrior, but legend says he used to rip dragons apart with his bare fists. Do I believe it? Yes. Yes I do. Ah, young Midoriya. You made it just in time. He looked over at me with that signature smile while tossing a shield onto the counter. You hear anything about the dragons out tonight? I ask while fooling around with one of the contraptions. I may not have the best aim in the village, but the machine before me should work to take something down. Some Yugijins, a few Tajimamori Toshinori speaks before a slap of thunder sounds outside, and it seems like a Raijin or two showed up. Fumbling about trying to catch the sword my MSTR just tossed to me, I attempt to peek over to counter to the outside. Any Kagutsukis? My green eyes nervously scan the fire outside. Not yet, thankfully. Let's just hope for the best. I nod and toss on my leather apron, watching how it still hangs around me. I've had the article for a while now and still don't fill it out, but Toshiner's been training with me in the woods. One day I'll look like a proper warrior. One day my father will be proud. Oh, Deku, you're here. I was worried you might have been lifted off already, calls a snarky voice from across the counter. Nido Monoma, a kid my age and all-around bully. I try to stay away from the people my age as much as possible, all they do is talk about dragon training while I'm not allowed in. My father says I would disgrace the family. I shoot my best smile toward the other boy and try not to cringe. I really don't want to get beaten up more than once this week. Quickly, Toshinori hands a flail out the window and looks up. The torches are being lit and far off near the high cliffs I can make out the silhouettes of catapults being readied. That's my cue. Midoriya, man the station while I'm gone. He reached for a sword of his own, but I suddenly reach out to place a hand on his arm. Please, let me go instead. I need to make my mark. In response, my MSTR gives me a small, pitying smile. My boy, you're no ready with weapons yet. I frown and walk over to the contraption to my left, which fires bola. I don't need to be able to. I have this. Please, Toshi. Just 2 minutes and I'll kill a dragon. Just one and the village will finally see me as more than a Deku. To prove my point I slap down on the machine, prematurely firing the weapon and hitting a warrior smack in the face. I cringe and duck my head down while my MSTR sighs. See, Izuku. You are not ready. He hands me a sword to sharpen and rushes out of the shop. One day I'll get out there, because killing a dragon around here is everything. Omegas like Yugajins and Tajimamori, with their small wings and rounder bodies, will at least get me noticed. Then, depending on the beta, I'll definitely be put on the map. Raijins, which can shoot sparks and electrocute near objects, are pretty easy to take down long range, but would definitely get me a date. Hachimen are tough, covered in almost impenetrable rock, but that feat might even make my father smile. And Susanus, well, only the toughest of warriors can kill those. A man pauses at the shop and I luge a shield onto the countertop. Just then, I hear it, the thunderous sound of an explosion. The man growls and yanks the shield away, charges away from battle. Why? Because that sound came from the ultimate prize. An alpha, the only type of dragon it seems the other kinds will follow. Furthermore, that alpha isn't just any alpha. No, it's one that has been ravaging the island with its pack for the whole fall. And a species that no one has ever seen. The frenzy grows outside. Kagetsuchi. Get down. Someone shouts right before a wave of fire rolls over the town. The thing never steals food, never shows itself, and never misses. How can it when one blast radiates out for alarming distances? I don't have time to wait around any longer. I can't be in this stall for the rest of my life. Turning around I lift the heavy bola thrower and drop it in a wheelbarrow. No one has ever killed a Kagetsuchi. I'm going to be the first. With the cart in front of me, I push through the doors and start scrambling toward a high vantage point. People shout from behind me, telling me to get back inside, but I won't listen, I can't. I need to kill a dragon. Finally I reach the top of an overlook, tilt the bola machine toward the sky, and place a shaky hand over the lever. Ignoring the shouts around me and the smoke screen trying to block my vision, I squint up. Then I hear it, the throaty crackling that announces the Kagetsuchi is about to fire. A second later an explosion goes off at a guard tower below me and I brace myself as a wave of heat hits. Through the fire I see the outline of wings and yank the lever, heart beating widely. The shot goes off, recoil sending me to the ground. Then with wide eyes I watch the bola hit and hear a nerve-shattering roar when the dragon plummets toward the forest across the island. For a moment everything is quiet as I try to process what just happened, and then everything around me goes up in flames. Literally. Many of the dragons start to make this pained howling sound and fly off into the night. Others down below begin stumbling around before growling and flying in the opposite direction. Don't let them escape, shouts a voice from the distance and I excitedly turn around. Did anyone see that? Expecting a human behind me, I freeze. When coming face to with a Hachiman. Unlike the dragons that I usually see, cold and indifferent, this one looks enraged. It stumbles forward, hovering a few feet off of the ground like its wings are moving without its permission. I stare in a mixture of fear and awe at its rock-hard body with cracks like laving glowing beneath the scales. And then it opens its mouth. Reality snaps back to me and I roll out of the way of its blast just in time. It roars, messily lunging toward me while I scramble away. Of course, my foot just has to get caught on a rock and I stumble to the earth. Panic begins to grow inside of me as I stare into the dragon's reddish-brown eyes. I don't want to die. I really don't want to die. Not before I can be anything other than a Deku. The dragon opens its mouth again, razor-sharp teeth glinting in the firelight, and I brace myself for an impact that never comes. Instead I hear it, "Die you devil," before looking up to see the town's chief swing a flaming sword in the dragon's direction. It rails back at blasts, tail swishing widely behind and wings beating more and more. Finally, it looks like it's about to snap. Those angry eyes roll into the back of its head and the Hachiman flees into the night before Chief can give the final blow. What just happened? I whisper in astonishment under my breath. A cold voice to my left replies, "That's what I'd like to know, Izuku. Why weren't you in the shop? Why are you never where you're supposed to be?" I cringe in response and stare up at the chief. "Sorry, Dad." He just spits on the ground and starts walking away. Scrambling to my feet, I run after him. But listen, Dad. I mean Chief. I shot down a Kagutsuchi. It crashed in the woods to the north. If we could just send a party out to look for it then dash. Izuku. I am sick of these fantasies of yours. You did not take down an alpha. You could not take down anything. You are a disgrace of a son, and I'm almost happy to know that your mother never has to see what a terrible warrior you've turned into. I pause in my tracks, tears building in my eyes without permission. Hisashi may hate me, but he has no right to say Mom would too. Once again, I struggle to catch up with my father. As we walk, he shouts order to round up the remaining sheep, get the fire out, lock up all the dragons for training battles, and for everyone to start rebuilding. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Toshi and give him a small wave before following my father up the hill to the chief hut. We enter the home and Hishahi throws down his armor while I stand awkwardly to the side. Staring at the floor, I mumble, "I really did shoot one down." This leads to my father growling and chucking his helmet against the wall. "Enough, Izuku. Why must you bring disaster everywhere you go? Why do you insist on getting in the way? Don't you understand that I have a village to feed? Winter's coming and those dragons are destroying the flocks." The man walks forward and punches his fist against the wall. "When I was a boy, my father, your grandfather, told me to hit my head against a rock, and I did it. It was crazy, but I did it. And you know what happened? That rock split it too. That experience showed me the true power of a warrior. He can crush mountains, level forests, tame seas. The only thing standing in our way are those dragons." My father looks up, eyes now burning with a fire that I really don't like. My fist trembles as I take a step back. "We finish them or they finish us, Izuku. They took my Inko, and I will avenge her. I will kill every last dragon, and I will not let a useless son like you hold me back." Hisashi slowly stalks forward, backing me into a corner. "Has this happened before?" "Yes." "Does it make it any easier?" "I'll let you take a guess. Most of the clan is leaving tomorrow. We are going to find the nest. And we are going to destroy it. You need to learn to stop holding us back. You will never kill a dragon, Izuku. You're too weak." His anger then turns predatory and he smirks down at me. I shut my eyes tight as the light patting to my cheek turns into a slap that has me pitching left. With that he sighs, mumbling about how I can't even take a hit, and walks off to prepare for the upcoming voyage. After a few minutes of laying on the floor, I muster enough energy to move to my feet. There is no use in idling around. Stuck inside I can't prove myself to anyone, but out there with the dragons I can prove myself. By the time my father returns home, I'll have a Kagutsuchi head on a spike. I brush my clothes off and grab a satchel. Knife at my side and sketchbook in hand, I exit the back door, hiking toward the woods. Just you wait, Dad. Just you wait. Peeking over another ravine, I sigh and mark one more X into my sketchbook. I've been searching for the last few hours through the northern woods but to no avail. Maybe the dragon has flown off by now. Or maybe I'm just going crazy altogether. I slam my notebook closed and stomp forward, angry at myself for thinking I could shoot down a dragon, a Kagutsuchi nonetheless. Worrying my lower lip, I begin pacing in circles. It would be best not to return to town for a bit with nothing in hand, I really don't need to be made fun of even more today. Green eyes scanning the surrounding pines, I watch the trees shiver in the cooling wind. Winter will be coming soon and the few small flowers dotting the landscape will disappear. With this in mind, I reopen my sketchbook to the flora and fauna section and decide to do a little cataloging while I waste the day away. Padding through the forest, I mark down which plants are growing where and smile a little at the tiny white flowers dancing on a hillside. It's pretty amazing, I think, that something so seemingly delicate can grow on the harsh, wind-blown whalebacks of VERYYYY. My mother liked flowers a lot, if I remember correctly. She was one of those people who believed each one had a different meaning. Though my mom believed in a lot of things. She believed in me. I sit on the edge of my cot, running my tiny hand through a sheepskin blanket. "Mama," I sniffle, staring at the far wall and waiting for it to burst into flames. At this point, dragons hardly ever came to the island and did little of notice when they did, but I was still scared. "Will you tell me a story, please?" My mother laughs fondly and begins stroking my dark mop of curls. She then sits down on the edge of my bed. "Of course, honey. How about I tell you a story of dragons?" I frown and shake my head back and forth. "Papa already told me about the monsters." My mother breathes out another laugh and smiles sadly. "I know, Zuko. But how would you like to hear a different kind of tale? I promise it's not scary." In response, I crawl under the covers and pull them up to my chin. "Does it have a happy ending?" I question with pleading eyes. Her own orbs gain a glassy, far-off look. With a hushed voice she says, "Not yet, sweetie. Not yet." I lay there for a minute, watching her closely until she suddenly shakes her head, smiles my way, and starts in a grand voice, eyes glowing with tenderness. "Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was only man. For as long as man could remember, they had been tied to the ground, carried across the land by 2 strong legs and a pair of dirty feet. They looked up often, watching the wind and counting the stars, but their feet remained firmly in place. One of these people was a young woman named Izanami. Izanami was a lonely girl, usually trapped in darkness. However, whenever she felt alone, she would gaze up, and no matter day or night, some form of light would always shine down on her. Izanami fell in love with the light, and the light fell in love with her. Day by day passed as they looked upon each other in awe, until finally Izanami decided to touch the sky. Determined, she climbed to the peak of the tallest mountain, and there the sky stood waiting for her. Izanagi held out his hand, heaven dancing above, and she took it. There Izanami stayed, enjoying the sky but missing the ground. She mourned for the fact that she had to choose one, but found hope that her children would not. Izanami named her firstborn Kagutsuchi, created of fire and link between the earth and sky. With the ability to grow feet or wings, Kagutsuchi became the king of kings. Slowly but surely Izanami's family continued to grow, connecting man with the gods. Eventually though man became greedy, seeking the ability to touch the sky as well. And if they couldn't have it, no one could. Izanami's children were driven away to the bottom of seas and the sides of windy cliffs. We both startle as the door slams open and my father storms in. "Inko," he yells, "would you stop spouting this nonsense?" My mother quickly rises to her feet, lips pulled into a tight frown. "It's not nonsense, Hisashi. Why must you insist on frightening our son?" He growls and fists his hand, pacing back and forth in the small loft. "I am preparing him, Inko. 300 years ago our clan was sent on a mission to find the nest and destroy it. We have yet to accomplish that mission. As chief it is my duty to follow through, and train my son to carry out the same mission if all else fails." Tears welling in her eyes, mother points sharply toward me. "He is a child. And the dragons have been leaving the village alone, thankfully, since we stopped the raids. We should not be provoking them. Even better, we should try to understand them." "Understand them? Do you hear yourself, Inko? They are animals. My mother's frown deepens and she ushers my father downstairs to continue the conversation. I remember that night so clearly. I remember how stark the couple's opinions were in comparison to each other. I think the most interesting piece of that memory though is how little the dragons attacked back then. They rarely stole and a kill happened once in a blue moon. But that all changed. When exactly, I couldn't tell you. One day my mother was dead, the next the island was on an inquisition, and eventually all our skirmishes between man and dragon became a war. In the beginning it was just a few, manageable, angry packs, but the more we ventured out to sea, the more dragons appeared with fire dancing on their tongues. Things got worse and worse, until even a Kagutsuchi showed up, and every night became more violent than the last. So here we are today, always on our toes and still searching for that elusive nest. I clench my fist, it all became too dangerous with that one Kagutsuchi. The same Kagutsuchi I shot down last night. Hurriedly flipping through my sketchbook back to the map of the forest, I scrutinize it, looking for any gaps in my search. Upon finding a blank spot, I tug a little harder on my satchel strap and push forward past low-hanging branches. Speed walking down a gradual hill, I freeze at the sight of a trench of upturned dirt. It isn't possible, is it? That I took down a dragon. I get low to the earth and stalk forward, knife out and ready. Then, peeking out from behind a boulder, I see it, a downed dragon. A Kagutsuchi. It's appealing. Its arrowhead-shaped scales ripple, shifting from black to gold as it breathes in and out shallowly. My eyes grow huge at the bola so perfectly well knotted around it. Gasping in awe, I stand up and slowly creep towards its body. I did it. I took down a Kagutsuchi. izukumidoriya, took down a Kagutsuchi. All I can do is stare in amazement and think how proud my father will be. I'll be a village hero. I shuffle forward to get a better view, its intricate scales shimmering in the morning light. Before I can stop myself, my left hand reaches forward to touch the beast. Suddenly, it shifts. Whoa! I shout, stumbling back a few feet and heart beating wildly in my chest. I lift up my dagger and stalk around the dragon, one foot crossing the other as to make sure my back is never facing the thing. And then I come upon the head, or more noticeably, the unwavering, burning red eyes piercing right into my soul. But more than the anger, more than the rage, I see fear. I stumble back once more, trying to look away but finding myself drawn in. With a growl, I raise the knife above my head and state, I will kill you, dragon. I am a warrior. I will prove that I am a warrior. However, my voice doesn't sound nearly as convincing out loud as it did in my head. I've never killed before in my life, and now I've injured a living being. No matter how hard I try, my mom's story won't stop playing on repeat. While it's just a thing of fiction, there was truth in some things. Humans are greedy. Maintaining eye contact with the dragon, I lower my knife, shoulders slumping in the process. My pride isn't worth this creature's life. I was selfish for ever thinking otherwise. I stare in disgust at the dagger in my hand and start to back up slowly. I did this, I mutter, turning away. I get a few steps before realizing that even if I leave, the dragon will just die anyway. It can't fly being all tied up. It can't hunt. It can't escape. Clenching my fist around the knife handle, I hurriedly approach the dragon once more, and before my brain can say otherwise, begin slicing through the rope surrounding it. With each cut the cord slackens until it slides of the beast. Nothing happens for a moment as I crouch there, too afraid to even breath. And then lightning fast, the Kagutsuchi pounces. Suddenly I find myself pinned against a rock, sharp claws holding down my throat. Those red eyes sear through my skin, pure power radiating off the dragon, and all sense of my surroundings fade out until it's just me and it. I'm going to die, repeats over and over in my mind, idea strengthened when the dragon opens its mouth and a crackling sound grows deep in its throat. With tears building at the corner of my eyes, I squeeze them shut and wait for an inferno to hit. Instead though, my terrified, Green orbs snap open at the piercing roar slamming into my face. Rounding in the other direction, the dragon attempts to take off into the sky, pushing itself up and forward. It careens into a few pines, never breaking the tree line, and screeches before stumbling out of sight. All I can do is stare in shock, mind working so quickly that it's left almost completely blank except for one thought. I can't kill dragons. With a shaky step, my legs give out and I fall flat on my face. Nose buried in the dirt, I spend the next half of the day questioning my life choices. Night is approaching by the time I reach town once more. Taking in a deep breath, I stare across the great expanse of ocean bleeding into sunset, thinking about the warriors out there and their fruitless nest quest. Yes, nest quest, it's stupid. Trust me, I know. I slide my sketchbook into the leather satchel bouncing at my side and continue on to the blacksmith shop. There are very few people in this town who I can talk to besides Toshi, sad as it may be. Along the way I see a few little kids running around with fake swords and slicing apart invisible dragons. However, as I pass, the children cease their battle to watch me instead. Then one of the small girls speaks up. My brother wanted to know if you found your dragon yet. The tone she says it in is innocent and curious, but I cringe all the same. Her older brother Nito would have surely used a different air. Shaking my head, I give a tight smile and hurry away towards Toshi's shop. Upon arriving, I slam the door closed and release a shaky breath I didn't know I was holding in. A light chuckle sounds behind me and I round to see my MSTR at the workbench, screwing something together. You okay there, my boy? He asks in that usual way that makes the toughest warriors willing to spill their greatest secrets and darkest demons. I trudge forward and plop onto a wooden stool. He laughs again, puts down his project, and faces my slumped-over form. That bad, huh? A non-committal groan slips from my lips. I then look up into Yagi's warm eyes, a look of love I haven't received from my father in quite a long time dancing through those blue orbs. Toshi, what would you think if I said I don't want to fight dragons? He stares at me for a second before sighing. Izuku, if this is about what I said last night, don't take it too seriously. I know with enough training you will be able to take down the mightiest beasts. Just give yourself some time. Sighing, I gaze at the flickering of a candle's flame atop the workbench. Let me rephrase. What would you think if I said that I can't kill dragons? Like I said, my boy. Maybe you can't yet, but in time dash. No, I breathe out while shaking my curls back and forth, head hanging low. Then I focus my gaze back on Toshi and lock eyes with him. I can't kill dragons. We both remain silent for a minute before the man stands up and walks into the back. A moment later he returns with a book in hand. Do you know what this is, Izuku? He shakes the leather-bound book around, dragon sketched on front. This is everything we know about dragons. An eyebrow raised, I nod my head and slowly take the book from his outstretched hand. Every kid in Yui has been told the tales of this book since their moment of BRTH. Honestly, I probably have them all memorized by this point. The stories detail how packs function, always under control of an alpha. And if the alpha is killed then the omegas and betas scatter. Common theory is that they return back to their nest to regroup and gain a new alpha. I have always accepted this theory, until last night, when that one Hachiman seemed to be fighting against every fiber of its being to stay on the island. Maybe the dragon knew his alpha was still alive. Or maybe what we know about the dragons is just incomplete. Moving on, the book also gives a brief history of our people and the founding of Yui. For as long as anyone can remember, humans have been at war with the dragons, savage, hungry creatures who live for the hunt. So, about 300 years ago the mainland sent a group of warriors to set up port on a far-off island. By doing this, the warriors would be able to set off in search of nests without have to travel all the way back and forth between the homeland and whatever existed beyond. Eventually though, fewer and fewer outside boats began to show up, until it was just Yui and the sea. Over time, our anger with the dragons grew, common thought being that if we could find the nest, our home country would let us return. So we went out, justly killing and dutifully searching. That's where the book ends, but the story continues, for at some point my mother came along, and the expeditions became less and less, all but ceasing by the BRTH of yours truly. And, well, I think you know the rest, dead mom, mad dad, lots of fighting, fun times. Toshi. I already know all of these stories. Why are you giving this to me now? Instead of answering my question, the man grins, telling me to open it to the back. Confused, I do as told. It's a blank page. And the page before that, he pushes. Also blank. Exactly. With a laugh, Toshi plops back down into his stool at the workbench and pulls the candle closer. I'm not following. Without looking up, he twirls the bolt in his bony hand and responds, that history book is not finished yet, Midoriya. The story is not complete. What you have been taught from BRTH was the history told from a bunch of old warriors' points of view. However, my boy, there are so many more tales to be told than just what you've read. Wouldn't you like to know the rest? Without much thought, I nod my head. If there is one thing I'm passionate about, it's learning. While Yagi can't see this show of affirmation, he grunts all the same. Good. Then take that book, throw it into a fire, and go find some more stories. Ones that everyone needs to hear. Ones that only you can tell. Toshi, I say with the tilt of my head, why do I feel like there's something you're not telling me? At this he laughs outright. There are many things I'm not telling you, young man. But with that big head of yours sitting on those small shoulders, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Now go home and get some rest. I think you have a dragon to not kill. I gape in shock at his light-hearted tone before scrambling out of the shop. He knows and he doesn't care. The great All-Might doesn't care. It's almost unbelievable. With my head spinning from the dump of cryptic messages that I never pinned Toshi to make, I toss and turn in my cot all night, listening to the crackling sound of fire. Listening to the burning of history. I glance over at the sketchbook on my bedside table. Apparently tomorrow I'm going to try to write a new tale. Or get eaten. The sun is just breaking through the trees when I reach the spot where I had released the Kagutsuchi. After crouching down to weigh the bola in my hand, I look around for clues. I begin to follow a trail of broken tree branches and the occasional black or gold scale. Eventually, I wind up dropping down into a rocky crevice, feeling my stupidity growing by the second. Peeking past a rock, my breath hitches as I stare in awe at the scene. I find myself in an isolated sinkhole, rocky canyon walls surrounding a bowl of spring green grass and a crystal clear pond. I continue to observe the space, but there is no dragon in sight. About to give up, I stumble back and stifle a shriek when a large black form whizzes past my hiding spot. The dragon soars up, scratching against the wall before tumbling down again. It releases a growl from its mouth and shoots an angry blast of fire at the cove's wall. Then the creature growls again, nearing the pool. It snaps at the water, probably hunting for fish, but comes up with nothing. I gape at its form, still as impressive as the previous day, and pull out my notebook. Undoing the strap, I draw. In the meantime, the Kagutsuchi continues to scratch at the rock wall, getting weaker with each attempt. Cold to paper, I watch its every movement. Why don't you just fly away? Biting my lip, I finish the drawing just to see a spot where I'd messed up. Quickly, I rub away half of my picture's tail, glancing from dragon to paper in confusion. The creature then stumbles a little bit to the right, and in my attempt to get a better view, my charcoal rolls off of the ledge and bounces to the grass. Shoot! Body frozen in place, I warily look up to lock onto wide, red eyes. Almost instantly those striking pupils narrow, becoming more constricted and causing my breath to hitch. We stare at each other, neither moving a muscle. Then, while maintaining eye contact, I back out of sight and race toward the village. The whole way there, I can't get those eyes out of my head. Why did the eyes of an animal hold so much emotion? Why did they look so human? Dagger shaky in my grasp, I lunge forward at Yagi. No matter how hard I try, every time I now look at a knife all I see are scared yet determined red eyes. Unfocused, I trip as my MSTR dodges the oncoming assault and fall to the ground, barely catching myself in time. He frowns my way. Are you okay, my boy? I grunt and push up off the ground. Just a little distracted. He nods knowingly and suggests we take a break. Dusting my dirty palms off, I walk toward a cliff and melt as the refreshing breeze slaps across my freckled skin. A minute later Toshi joins me and we look up at the lightning blue sky of the west. Somewhere behind, past a mountain or two, is surely a rather awe-inspiring sunrise. One morning we'll take a hike to the other side of the island to enjoy the view, Toshi says quietly, knowing how my brain works after spending so much time together. All I do in response is smile gently. Thinking about it now, I am rather tired of always seeing the sun set. Before I can stop myself, my mind is already wandering to the idea that dragons get to see every position of the sun. Dragons have all the freedom in the world. Well, most do anyway. Hey Toshi, have you ever seen a dragon missing half its tail? Tapping his chin in thought, the man frowns. Yes, dead ones. The way he says it is blunt yet sharp and I suddenly find myself feeling very uncomfortable. What do you mean? My MSTR sighs and starts meandering back to the field we train on. Dragons need their tail to maneuver. If it can't maneuver, it effectively can't fly. And a down dragon is a dead dragon. Heart aching, I squeeze the knife a little tighter at my side. Toshi, I think I have to go. And just like that I bolt away and back toward the village, unwanted worry and guilt pooling in my gut. Warriors aren't supposed to care, but I do. So if I'm not a warrior, what am I? If you said that going to visit a really angry, really dangerous, fire-breathing alpha dragon who almost killed me once already was a bad idea, I would agree. This is a really bad idea. But that fact of the matter is that the Kagutsuchi didn't kill me last time. I'm one for one, and while most aspects of my being aren't warrior-worthy, I've never been anything if not as equally stubborn as the greatest hunter around. Armed with a shield, a knife, and a fish, I edge my way through the rocky tunnels as I move toward the cove. Of course halfway there my shield decides to get stuck in between two rocks, and with my impressive lack of upper body strength I am forced to continue on without it. Hesitantly, I step out into the grassy bowl and immediately feel like a caged animal. The walls loom above me and the air is ominously stagnant. Shifting my gaze around, I see a few birds flitting in and out, but nothing more. I want to be hopeful that the dragon has escaped, but in the end I trust Toshi's words more than my own eyes. After abandoning the notion of sneaking about because I'm in a tank with a freaking dragon, I slowly stroll around the pond, watching tiny fish dart back and forth. The Kagutsuchi probably hasn't eaten in quite a while. I continue to make my rounds, stuck between feeling relief because I haven't died yet and fear because I may just be a fun piece of prey, the creature wanting me to get comfortable before roasting me alive. With that thought in mind, I jump at the sound of a snapping tree branch. Then flailing about, I sloppily whirl around to come face to face with a pair of cold, predatory eyes. My breath hitches and I watch its tail slowly swing back and forth. Hey. Those red eyes narrow as its black and gold form prowls toward me. Fear buzzing through my marrow, I take 2 steps back for every one it takes forward. Realizing my mouth has decided to stop working, not that the animal can even understand me, I reach for my satchel. The dragon instantly growls, causing me to freeze in place and follow its line of sight to the dagger at my side. Sorry. I grab the knife, earning a deep, throaty, crackling sound from the creature in response, and drop the weapon to the ground like it has just burned me. Looking back up, I see the Kagutsuchi still on full alert and instinctively kick my knife into the pond just to be safe. However, right after completing this action, my senses return full force. Welp, there goes my only means of defense. Though it's not like I can even use a knife in battle. Still, I can't imagine why such a powerful creature would be afraid of a little. I snap my mouth shut when the dragon starts growling again. Shifting on the ball of my feet, I purse my lips together. I just said that out loud, didn't I? We stand there awkwardly for a few more minutes, me burning holes into the ground and begging whatever gods my mom believed in that I don't actually get burned alive. Oh, right. Pushing through another round of snarls, I produce a fish from my bag. I thought you might be hungry because you can't fly, I decide not to add. You can't fly because of me. With an exhausted sigh, I collapse against a boulder and let the cool surface press against my palms. I'm sorry. The birds continue to dance around, soaring through the blue patches of the cloudy sky. I'm sorry for shooting you down. I thought I could kill you. You and your pack and the other packs have been destroying the village and I thought but I couldn't do it. I couldn't kill you and now you're stuck suffering because of it. Stifling a sob, I bury my face between cold hands. Then I hear another growl and peek up to see cautious red eyes still staring my way. All right. You want the fish, don't you? With a pitiful chuckle, I toss the fish over to the dragon's clawed foot. For some weird reason though, those eyes don't stop boring into me. I shift uncomfortably under the powerful stare, thinking how easily the Kagutsuchi could end my life here and now. But I don't plan on leaving, instead digging around for my sketchbook just to find it isn't in my satchel. I huff. It keeps looking with those eyes that appear to know more than they should. Then suddenly all of the dragon's scales ripple until the bicolored body is completely golden, shimmering in the hazy light. I gasp in amazement, then cringe in disgust when a half-eaten fish is regurgitated onto my undeserving lap. With a curled lip, I shoot a raised eyebrow toward the smirking dragon. Wait, smirking. Seeing something mischievous dancing in those glowing eyes, the Kagutsuchi nods its head toward the fish and I involuntarily GG. You're joking, right? I can appreciate some good sushi but... The growling starts again and with a loud gulp I lift the soggy fish to my lips. Holding my breath, I sink my teeth into the animal and cringe. With a pained sound of approval, I hold the fish in my mouth. Those red eyes twinkle and it growls again. Well flip. Attempting to not puke up my guts, I swallow the fish and start feeling queasy. My body goes limp against the rock after tossing the fish back toward the dragon. You're playing a dangerous game, you Kagutsuchi. I cough out between gags. In response the dragon huffs and puffs out fire to cook the fish through. Its crisp smell starts permeating through the air and my stomach growls in response. The creature then smirks over at me before swallowing the cooked food whole. Well, I'm offended, I comment bluntly, sporting a small glare. Its eyes smile back as I push up to sit atop the boulder. Dragon? Kagutsuchi? Oh, my name's Izuku by the way. Not that you care. While scratching the side of my cheek, I tilt my head curiously at the creature. This is probably stupid, but I feel kinda bad calling you dragon. Not that I'm saying we're on a first-name basis or anything. I mean, most people call me Deku and not Izuku, so maybe I should have led with that. People think I'm useless and small and stuff. You probably do too actually. Of course I'm small by comparison. Haha, anyway, I wonder if... And the growling is back. I quickly apologize for the mumbling and start twiddling my thumbs. Then almost to the air, I add, I just wanted to prove myself, you know. But here I am, the only warrior in Yui who can't kill a dragon. Though I'll get over it, it will just take some time. While whispering this, I reach over to grab a stick, distractedly drawing the dragon's body in the sandy dirt. Absent-mindedly, I begin muttering about the Kagutsuchi's possible stats, strength, speed, number of blasts. By the time I finally look up dirt picture now complete with a full tail, the dragon is nowhere to be seen. Turning around I find it hanging upside down from a tree. Curious, I edge closer. Red eyes half open to glare my way before it huffs and hops down to the ground, tail flickering from agitation. It seems like my invitation has worn out for the day. Funnily enough, while I stayed on edge the whole time, I also feel a little giddy about coming back. I'll see you, dragon. It stays silent for a second and then growls at my satchel. Oh, yeah. I'll bring more fish tomorrow. And I know you have no reason to trust me, but I promise I won't be bringing any of my non-existent friends by, so sleep well. With an awkward wave stemming from my own pathetic cringiness, I stiffly turn away and speed back to the village. I have so many notes to add to my book. Sitting on top of a boulder, I watch the dragon down a basket of fish, save the eel. The early morning brings a symphony of birdsong bleeding together with the tap of my charcoal stick against paper. Frustrated, I stare at the blank pages and make a small whine in the back of my throat. At this, the dragon glances up, swallows down its last fish, and inches closer in a predatory circle. Oh, I'm trying to give this section of my notebook a good title. But I'm pretty bad at naming things. Shooting me an unimpressed blink, it stalks away, injured tail sweeping back and forth. I frown and quickly start sketching designs for a new fin. Hey, Kagutsuchi. I whisper, voice tight. It peers back over at me with that piercing gaze. I will fix this. I'll get you back to your family. The dragon's gaze hardens and I gulp as it straightens up to full height. The thing then prowls forward, glaring daggers into me. Steadying my own gaze, I take in a deep breath before adding a confident sounding, I promise. It looks me over, scrutinizing my every movement. Somehow the action feels oddly invasive, so I start to shift under its stare. Though now that I think about it, do dragons even have families? Like are packs a family or more like a village? Because my village is definitely not my family. Actually, there's only one human here who takes to me seriously. His name's Yagi. I think he likes dragons. Though that wouldn't make much sense because in legend he kills a lot of them. My father on the other hand hates dragons since they killed my mom. He also hates me because I'm weak. Oh, I don't really have any friends either. Though I'm sure you don't have that problem. I mean, you're an alpha dash. I snap out of the ramble at the growing warmth around me. Hesitantly, I glance up to see the dragon looming above, expression unreadable. Giving an apologetic smile and small wave, I duck my head down again. It doesn't move away however, instead leaning in as if trying to look at my tail designs. I freeze at its close proximity and SCK in a breath, waiting to be attacked. Then, after a second of heart-stopping fear, it pulls back and stomps to the nearest tree. Soon returning with a branch in its mouth, the Kagutsuchi tilts one end into the sand and starts spinning around. I dodge a swing over my head and watch the scene unfold before me curiously, hand absent-mindedly jotting down notes on how the creature moves and uses tools. A minute later, my boulder is surrounded by a maze of lines in the dirt. Biting my lower lip, I slide off the rock and look around. I then take a step forward onto a line just to have the dragon growl at me. My breath hitches and I glance its way, trying to understand the problem. Placing my toes back onto the line, the dragon's harsh sounds begin again. Finally, after a few more tries, an idea pops into my head. I successfully step over the line, no growl to come, and flash a bright smile the Kagutsuchi's way. Kagutsuchi. Blasty. Fido. Wait, is it male? Do dragons even have gender? Thoughts flooding my mind, I twist around the maze, carefully stepping into each allowed space. When the dragon is like this, it's actually not that scary. If it can already draw, can I teach it any other tricks? A childish thought flashes through my mind, a childish name for such a powerful beast. Suddenly, heat runs up my spine. Cautiously looking back, I see glowing carmine eyes no more than 3 feet away from me. Kaken. I whisper, emerald eyes wide. For a split second the dragon seems taken aback, but then it narrows its eyes once more. Fear races through my veins, mixed with a sense of awe. Here, standing before me, standing right in front of me, breathing right in front of me, is a dragon. Delicately, I close my eyes, release a shaky breath, and stretch out my arm. My fingers twitch slightly at the idea of them being bit off, but the hand stays firmly in place midair. And then I feel it, warmth running up my arm as a smooth snout presses into my palm. My eyes flash open and I gape at the Kagutsuchi. Slowly, its own, dilated orbs flutter. We look at each other, a wide, relieved grin spreading over my face, before Kaken huffs and yanks away. It paces around, tail pounding in agitation and throat growling at chirping birds. It then launches into the air, snapping at the innocent animals. My smile falls as I race toward the dragon in a state of panic. Wait, no. Don't eat them. I'll bring you more fish, okay girl. It immediately halts the unnecessary attack to regard me like I have just grown a pair of wings. I mean boy. One awkward chuckle later I'm running for my life around the pond, enraged dragon hot on my heels. Well Kaken, I'm sorry that I can't discern the gender of a freaking reptile. Screaming, I slide forward and pluck my notebook and charcoal stick off the boulder. Messily scribbling while I dash around, the dragon finally catches up and pins me to the ground. Rolling around so I'm now laying on my back, I look up, sporting as innocent of a smile as I can muster. Then I hold my notebook up into its smoking face. Section 3, How to Train Your Pissy Dragon. In response I'm given an unimpressed scowl and a puff of fire. Shrieking, I let go of my now slightly charred notebook and stare at Kaken in horror. With dancing eyes, it backs off of me, glances around, and then continues to harass the birds. Test Flight 1, I scribble into my notebook before falling onto Kaken's swishing tail. Okay, I mutter, snapping on the prosthetic fin I created last night and clenching the straps. Next, I pat gloved hands onto a pair of dark green pants and regard my handiwork. Leaning over to grab the fin, I stretch the material out in my hand, proudly smiling. Kaken then shifts under me as I glance up at the rock wall to see the shadow of his wings unfolded. Hold on hitch. The dragon bolts into the air and I scream while holding on for dear life. The tail material starts to rattle in the wind as Kaken climbs higher and attempts to escape the bowl, but soon I can feel him pitching to the side. My panic quickly rises. Reaching out, I grab the folded fin and yank it open, stabilizing the flight. We soar high into the sky, rising above the island, and a wide smile spreads across my face. The island and sea stretch out before me for the briefest seconds. For a fleeting moment I relax, letting my mind drift. Then turning the material, we dive back down into the bowl and glide over the pond. It's working. Yes. With a cheer, I feel Kaken shift once more and suddenly I'm being thrown off the escaping dragon. I skip across the water and paddle away just in time for Kaken's large body to crash, nothing supporting the proto-fin any longer. That was awesome. I laugh after resurfacing. Kaken looks less excited, instead staring at the walls that cage him in once more. Slowly, I swim over to him, peeking up through the wet bangs stuck to my forehead. With a determined gaze, I state, remember, that was just trial 1. We still have a long way to go. My candle flickers, shivering at the sudden gust of cool, night air that sneaks through the mead hall's sturdy doors. Letting the sound of closing wood reverberate past and blend into silence, I ignore the empty dining room in favor of focusing on my designs. Worrying my lower lip, I add another dark line to paper before scrutinizing the HRNSS sketch. In theory it should work, a foot pedal connected to the proto-fin for controlling direction during flight. Still, it's not what I want. My eyebrows press together in frustration and I scribble in a few more thick lines to the picture. Kaken shouldn't need me to fly. The dragon should be able to soar high above and off to his pack any time of the day. But he can't. And it's my fault. Suddenly a bony hand slaps down on my shoulder. A shyrek rips out of my tight throat and flailing, I lean off the wooden bench before latching onto the large table for support. Apologies, my boy, laughs Toshi in between his usual light coughing fits. All I can do is add a strained chuckle of my own, attempting to relax my rapid heart rate. I've been looking for you, the man continues not unkindly, lowering himself down onto the long bench. Little late for dinner, isn't it? Huh, I need a lot of food for this growing body. Jokingly, he glances at my small bicep with a raised eyebrow. I think it's going to take a little more than lamb roast. Then more seriously, but the training is helping, Midoriya. I can see it. I hope you can too. I wish my father could though, is what I want to add, but I keep said thought to myself as I glance around the looming grandeur of the hall. The building is by far the largest in the village, bringing added on to little by little until my father in his younger years decided to expand greatly. A small hum and the crinkle of paper brings me back to the table, where my notebook, which Toshi is curiously eyeing, lies open. Jumping slightly, I scramble forward and slam the book closed. Reflective blue eyes watch my jitteriness closely for a second before flicking away in favor of looking around the empty hall. Then with a huff and a fond smile, my mentor ruffles my mop of curls and pops his own deceptively scrawny shoulders. Want to talk about it, my boy? His gaze focuses on a wooden beam above, causing me to calm down slightly as how casual and warm the offer is. However, I have a question of my own. In a hushed voice I begin, hey, Toshi. When I was growing up my mom used to tell me all these stories about dragons. Did she ever mention anything to you? I keep my head lowered, thumbs fiddling as strangely expressive red eyes flash through my mind. Eventually, one of my mentor's signature laughs, and coughs, echo through the air and a hand, gentler this time, falls atop my shoulder. Your mother did tell me a few histories, yes. But most of my knowledge comes from another woman. I perk up at that, face scrunched in confusion. As far as I know, my mother was the only person on the island who had a non-violent interest in the dragons. Then again, here my mentor is, the legendary warrior of Yui, revealing himself to seemingly be a treasure trove of tales and mystery. One winter, when I was just a young lad, I met her down by a river. With her bright smile we became fast friends, and she decided to bestow her stories upon me. Of course at this point I want to interject, so many questions flooding my sense. Who is her? Why would she just start telling Yagi stories? How is she a credible source? But I bite my tongue upon recognizing my mentor's fond, almost reverent voice. She spoke of how dragons, the monsters we hunt towards the ends of the earth, just want to survive. How the creatures were forced to flee the human world, abandoning their roots and cultures to make new ones in the most desolate of environments. Wait. Roots? Cultures? Those words don't usually go with animals, do they? Why would he say, I freeze, confusion hitting me full force. But, I blurt out before releasing back and whispering a meek, sorry. Yagi pauses to look me over. It's all right, Izuku. What's on your mind? Nothing. We sit in silence for a moment, but after staring into Toshi's warm, open eyes, I gulp. Well, did that lady ever say anything about dragons being able to transform? Or something? Immediately I regret saying something so stupid and conspiratorial. Even so, a warm smile is shot my way in pair with crinkling eyes. One day, my boy, you are going to make a fine chief. And with that he pushes himself off of the bench and ruffles my hair once more. Also, may I suggest a strap to affix yourself to the saddle? Once again I find myself helplessly confused and a little nervous. The last few hours have been a process to say the least. Unsurprisingly, the dragon wasn't exactly excited for a new tale after the flight problems that occurred last time. Unimpressed, two knowing red eyes had burned through my nervous form during my spiel to assure him that the fin designs had been improved. Eventually though, after attempting to appeal to his instinct of flying and obvious longing for any semblance of freedom, the new and improved protofin was secured in place. Yep. Things really only started to go downhill when the saddle was produced. Upon lugging the article through rocky passages and out into the cove, Kakin regarded me like I had actually lost my mind. However, once I shot him a small, pleading smile, he seemed to become well aware that I was in fact completely serious. I will never forget the feelings that rushed through me as the Kagutsuchi unfolded his translucent, gold wings, and opened his mouth to send out an explosion of fire. Fear, regret, guilt, understanding, disappointment, the crippling feeling that only Yagi would miss me, and the hope that the dragon was feeling merciful, to name a few. These all culminated into a resigned buzz as I pressed my eyes shut in anticipation. Instead of being roasted though, a wet, warmness wrapped around my ankle. I screamed as I was thrown through the air, into the clearing's chilly pond. The leather saddle was soon to follow. And then, like every other time in the history of our relationship, Kakin smirked. I wanted to be angry, but all of this is my fault in the first place, so instead I silently dragged the soaked HRNSS back onto land to dry off. I then spent the new tens of minutes trying to ignore Kakin, like one would assume the dragon might want. But of course it turns out he didn't, because if nothing else that dragon loves to be tiringly complicated. It started with his tail thumping against the earth, growing in speed and strength as time went by. Next came the signature growling, which at this point really only feels threatening when the crackling of throaty fire goes along with it. Though that fear of mine in itself is more primal, I think, training from younger years on which dragon sounds to hide away from. Soon enough the snarling grew louder and louder until I worried that a full-on roar was about to erupt from the thing's throat. Launching to my feet, I walked forward, placing myself right in front of Kakin. My eyes glanced around the bull nervously. "Kakin," I shouted in a hoarse voice. "What is someone hears you? Sound travels, you know." Red Eyes watched me in amusement for a moment before the dragon promptly stopped the noise, turned around, and strode away to go rest in seclusion. Tugging my hair in frustration, I shuffled in the opposite direction, plopping down by the saddle until it dried off a bit. Attempt 2 to get the HRNSS on started off well, until the dragon gave me that look which I've come to name, "I'm hungry. Get me food, SLV." And now here we are, practically 10 hours later, the sun dipping low into the sky as I sit atop the dragon's back. The biting wind surges over the cliff's edge, stinging my face and igniting my adrenaline. I glanced down cautiously from my position on Kakin's saddle to see how the rope connecting us to the ground is holding up. With a pleased nod, I swch to the next pedal position, tilting the dragon's tail. We hover a little higher above the grass and settle into the new pattern. After a few more practices, I slide my foot once more, ready to tilt right but accidentally swerving left. Frowning, I try again to get the new position correct. Just then, a wild gust of wind rushes past, pushing me back on the saddle. Accidentally, my foot hits the gear, clicking it back and in turn spreading the dragon's protofin wide open to catch wind. Now with Kakin's large body being pushed as well, the rope tying us in place begins to fray. Wild hair cuts across my face and, in between spitting pieces of it out of my mouth, I shout a heads up at the Kagutsuchi. Suddenly, the rope snaps and we are flung backwards. I scream while hitting the dirt, thankful that my HRNSS wasn't attached to the saddle. If it had been, then I would currently be flattened under the large reptile rolling down a hill. Dusting myself off, my face presses in concern as I stumble down the slope to see Kakin pouting in the field below, tail pounding in frustration. "Sorry, Kakin." Breathing out, I tiredly approach his form, watching the shimmer of dancing black and gold scales. If I hadn't messed up the fin positioning, we could have stayed airborne. With a gulp, I collapse to the soft lawn. Who am I kidding? If you had your own tail, then you wouldn't need to rely on me in the first place. I rub a blade of grass between my fingers in defeat, drooping eyes attempting to blink away cold hollowness. Ignoring the growl Kakin throws my way, I slowly tear thin strands of the plant, ripping them away just like I did to Kakin's tail. With a deep breath, I take in the crisp, twilight air, letting it calm my ever-present nerves. I know I can't change the past, I know that. Muttering more toward myself than him, I slide my gaze back up towards Kakin. But dash. The dragon cuts me off, huffing out smoke and throwing a glare my way before swiftly settling into an especially tall patch of grass. Red eyes regard me once again before rolling in annoyance and focusing back on the grass. Did the dragon seriously just roll his eyes at me? I wonder in a mix of shock and offense. However, I decide to focus less on that detail for now, instead scooting a little closer to the animal as a new thought dawns on me. With a soft voice, I question, have you been trying to make me feel better this whole time? Is that why you always interrupt my apologies? Fidgeting in place, I watched the dragon puff out his chest in indignation. Probably stupid of me to ask him a question anyway, right? Regardless, warmth bubbles inside my stomach. I don't expect you to forgive me, I add, struggling to hide the hint of a smile at another one of Kaken's looks. This one I think I'll call, stop being so self-centered, idiot. We stare at each other for another moment in complete silence before a broken giggle breaks free from my throat. I snort, stumbling to my feet and jogging up a small incline to enjoy the beginnings of night, the moon bright in the sky. Isn't it pretty, Kaken? I smile, glancing over my shoulder at him while wind tousles my thick locks. His eyes lock onto mine, blown wide, gathering light from the night sky. I smile again as the chilly air blows, and feel a sense of freedom flow through me. With another laugh, I fall to my knees and light-heartedly roll down the rise, surely soiling my white shirt. Oh well, at least any stains will blend in with the vest. When the world stops spinning, I see something akin to curiosity flicker across Kaken's face, soon to be replaced with a huff. Ah, come on, try it. It's fun. I laugh, watching his tail PND faster. Sighing contently, I lean onto my palms, commenting on stars and aimlessly rattling off a few constellations. When I finally glance the dragon's way, I struggle to suppress another snort at how his position has shifted, now splayed out in the field, face rubbing against the earth. You okay there, bud? I ask in amusement, causing him to immediately snap his head up and glare. I quickly sputter out, oh, wait, and no. Don't stop. Sorry for bothering you. You just looked really happy is all. I start to fidget in place but soon get distracted by the stars again. No matter how often I watch them, they always seem to reveal something new. Looking to the side once more, the dragon is back to rubbing his face, if not a little more slowly and stiffly this time. Biting my lip, I watch the way he wriggles on his back, and before I realize it, I have started crawling toward him on hands and knees. On my journey, I stare at how well his black body blends into the night, scales shitting under the moon's rays. You really are appealing, I whisper in awe just a foot away from him. He startles up, wide eyes snapping my way, and hurriedly I apologize. Your face. I state eloquently. It must be hard without fingers. Without anything else to add, I reach forward and place a hand on the side of his head. He blinks in confusion, and for a second I think I see a flash of fear. But soon enough the emotion, or lack thereof, is gone. With a gulp, I begin moving my fingers in a slow, easy pattern, nails delicate against his glossy scales. Kaken eyes me cautiously, but the faster my hand moves and lower it goes the more his body seems to relax. My hand travels down the side of his face and trails under his chin, a smile of my own growing with each scratch. A giddy feeling washes over me at the sound of soft purrs rumbling from the dragon, and I can't help but beam upon hitting Kaken's sweet spot, watching him melt into my touch. It feels so good, to make Kaken happy for once. I can't give him much, but I can give him this. The stars glow around us and grass shudders in the wind under pale moonlight. In the distance, the crash of waves can be heard, mixing with a ruffling choir of leaves. Hey, Kaken. I think we should head back, I murmur a few minutes later, getting sleepy to the lullaby of the dragon's purring. His half-lidded orbs open at the yawn escaping my mouth, and I smile his way while rubbing a couple stray tears away from the corners of my eyes. He huffs in response but pushes up to 4 clawed feet all the same. Yawning once more, I languidly stretch my spine and rake a few fingers through my tangled, wind-blown hair. I think today went well. You know, after you threw me into that pond. Kaken just huffs, eyes glowing in the night as a warm stream of air puffs onto my face. Yeah. I'll make some design adjustments tonight. I don't even notice when Kaken stops walking just slightly ahead of me at first, but soon enough I swivel around to see him glaring daggers into my back. I groan internally. What did I do now? His body starts to twist, thrashing the saddle off of his back. Concerned for both his and the saddle's safety, I rush forward and quickly unclip the HRNSS. What's wrong? I ask with wide eyes, pulling the saddle all the way off. Glaring at me again, he rips the seat away from its position of leaning against my leg and throws it a distance away with his mouth. I gawk at the sight, face pulled into a mixture of shock and horror. Why would you do that? If you hurt it then I'll just have to fix it more. Oh. Heat rises to my cheeks as understanding dawns upon me. Did Kaken not want me working late into the night? Though I can't confirm that thought, it fills me with pleasure all the same. The only other person who cares about my sleep is Toshi. Thanks, Kaken, I mumble, head ducked low. The dragon responds with a resigned snort, swaggering away. W8. Kaken. Do you think you could help with the saddle? Amused red eyes turn to meet mine, and then with a smirk the dragon continues on. ISCK in a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves as we slowly fly off the island's coast, puffy, mountain-sized clouds filling an otherwise azure blue sky. Worriedly glancing around for the 10th time, I check to make sure that the saddle is secure and the flapping fins holding up. Below me, Kaken growls in annoyance, wanting to truly begin the test flight. I shakily sigh, quickly combing one hand through my thrashing hair before slamming it back into a securer position on the HRNSS. Okay, I chant, psyching myself up while simultaneously gawking over at the cliffs of Yui, which seem dauntingly massive. Okay there, Kaken. We're gonna take this nice and slow. I cringe a little at how that statement comes out like a plea before reaching down and patting the side of his neck in reassurance. The reassurance is for me by the way, not him. With another deep breath, I look down to analyze the quivering paper clipped in place to the HRNSS. It has a set of tail positions scribbled on it with their coordinating pedal positions. While I've studied the sheet to no end, preparing for this day, my brain stalls upon seeing the symbols. Here we go. No, here we go. Position F3, no, 4. Eyebrows scrunched together, I glance down at my foot before completing the move. A bit of relief washes over me when the proto-fin responds properly, and Kaken shifts with a pleased rumble. He tilts to the side, gliding in a half circle while I inspect the saddle one last time. Sea spanning below us, I gulp at the tall rock arches ahead. Kaken shifts for a second time, and I can practically see the predatory aura radiating off of him at this new challenge. Are you sure? I call, begging that he's not sure. In response the dragon growls competitively. All right. It's go time. I mutter, knowing that the pedal rig does need to be tested for maneuverability. Leaning in, I brace myself against Kaken's neck as he dives. The ocean rushes up to meet us, and the dragon dips to the side, letting one wing skim the water's surface. A large arch looms nearer, and with anxious eyes I look up at a flock of seabirds nesting in the cliffs. After successfully clearing the arch, a little bit more confidence blooms in my belly, mixing with pride that the first tail position works perfectly. I can't help the tentative grin spreading across my face as we soar towards a couple of sea stacks. I go to turn the dragon's large body but am a little slow, causing him to smack into one of the stone pillars. Sorry. Uncoordinated from the screw-up and my own panic, we turn only to run into another pillar. Are you okay, Kaken? I shout, just to have him slap me in the cheek with one of his gear flaps. He growls in annoyance and I hurriedly glance back down at my flight position sheet. Sorry, I'm on it. Position 3, A4. We tilt back, strong wings pounding on both sides of me as we climb high into the air. Gritting my teeth, I press myself closer to Kaken at first. However, with each beat of his wings a bubbling wonder starts to tingle my marrow. Distracted by the scenery, I relax my position and lean back. A tunnel of wind forms around the two of us, and I can't help but burst into laughter. So this is what it's like to be a dragon. In response, Kaken gives a short roar that rumbles beneath my saddle. The island seems miles under us, and it's like looking at something for the first time, like I never knew where I had been living my whole life until now. Cheering, my smile starts to hurt against my face. This is amazing. The wind in my cheat sheet. Shouting as the parchment unclips from its hold on the saddle, I desperately lean back, hands flailing in attempt to grab the paper. Stop! I cry at the paper, however, Kaken takes this command as being directed towards him, for with an unhappy growl, he stops beating his wings. Grabbing the paper, I whirl forward just to watch the metal clamp affixing me to the saddle slide out of its hook. And then time stops, me hovering above the dragon's paused body. Narrowed, red orbs glance up to see me splayed out mid-air, and then at the same time both our pairs of eyes widen in shock. I scream. Kaken screeches. We plummet towards the island. Quickly my smaller form gains on Kaken's, his with more surface area to slow the free fall, and I slap into one of his wings. This sends me spiraling. I hear Kaken screech again. Panic numbs my body and the air around me begins to feel incredibly thin. Everything is spinning. I'm going to die. Usually, I would be sobbing by this point, but the wind keeps my tears from spilling out, so instead I am able to see Kaken's body, which is now swirling out of control. My mind stutters as I focus completely on him. Kaken is going to die. After spreading out my limbs to stay facing straight, I hurriedly start shouting his way. Hey, alright, okay. You just gotta kinda angle yourself. Oh, no 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 no. Come back towards me. Come back towards dash, suddenly his tail slaps me across the cheek, and the world spins once more. I careen to the side before twisting closer to him. Seeing the opportunity, I shove the cheat sheet into my mouth and then my hands reach out towards the saddle's hook. They flail about, trying to grab onto anything, until one slides under a leather strap. Somehow, I pull myself in, flipping over his neck and pushing myself into the saddle. Clipping myself back in place just as we near a mountainside, I slide my foot in place and yank back. Large, golden wings spread open completely, catching wind in attempt to slow us down. Barely dogging treetops, we rush through the mist towards a maze of sea stacks. Kaken screeches in warning and I wrench the paper from my teeth. I try to read it but it flaps widely in the wind and we are ever nearing the large, hard pillars. In a rushed manner, I threw the cheat sheet and caution to the wind in order to focus my complete attention on the oncoming obstacles. My fingers twitch, my toes squeeze, my lips press together, and my eyes narrow. I can do this. I know that sheet. I made this tail. I click the foot pedal in position as we enter the tight field of sea stacks. Getting low, we maneuver through the fog, turning and twirling. My foot flies, switching and sliding in an instant. We dodge right, roll left, and shoot out above the open sea. With heavy gasps, I take in our now safe surroundings. Relief and euphoria wash over me, and I cheer from my place on Kaken's back. Simultaneously, the Kagutsuchi rumbles, releasing a thunderous explosion of fire in victory. My smile falls as we glide straight into the inferno. Splayed out on a rocky beach, I shift uncomfortably. Tiny pebbles dig into my palms and wet clothing sticks to my ice-cold skin. I shiver and slowly turn my fish on a stick over the dwindling fire. To my right, Kaken side-eyes me and huffs. I hear a crunching sound before a blanket of warmth wraps around my back, causing me to sigh contently. A small smile plays on my lips as I lean back into the dragon. Thanks, Kaken. He huffs again, swallows a fish, regurgitates its head onto my lap, and smirks. Bursting into laughter, I playfully swat at him. Not this again. He puffs out a laugh of his own, but it morphs into a low growl at the sight of a few smaller dragons landing on the beach. I curiously watch as the little things hunker down, baring their necks towards us. I raise my eyebrow in wonder, but Kakin seems to be somewhat appeased, for he stops his growling. The smaller dragons move their heads upright once more and cautiously scamper closer. At this point, a golden tail slowly snakes around me, creating a barrier between us and them. Kakin. His burning gaze flickers over to meet mine for a second, eyes firm and narrowed. Whatever he is feeling at this moment is lost to me, however, and soon he turns away once more to shoot a sliver of fire into one of the smaller dragons' mouths. It stumbles back, smoking a little, and in horror I look over to Kakin's smirking face. Kakin. I reprimand him, worriedly getting on my knees to check the smaller one. I pout as warmth leaves my back, even though the action's my choice, but still move towards the now depressed-looking dragon, which has curled in on itself. Kakin growls again, this time directed at me, and his tail barrier pounds against the ground. I ignore this, however, pushing past it and crouching by the little one. It's crazy to think that not so long ago I was trying to kill dragons, but now here I am, walking straight up to them. Not so fireproof on the inside, I whisper in a gentle tone. I then pull the cooked fish off of my stick and set it in front of the little Sakuyaheim. It shyly stares at me, then the fish, then me for a moment, before scooting forward and licking my finger. I gasp, causing it to trip backwards with wide eyes. Apologizing, I delicately reach forward and hook one of my fingers beneath its chin. It freezes in fear at first, but eventually relaxes with a purr. I smile, the whole experience just too surreal. Everything we know about you guys is wrong. Suddenly, I'm ripped out of my peaceful bubble as the Kagutsuchi roars. The Sakuyaheim cowers and then bolts away into the sky. Eyes wide, I round to find Kakin right behind me, eyes ablaze. Kakin. He growls, head aggressively darting forward to my own. With him in my personal space, I take a step to the side, and in this time he shoves my cheek away. My head tilts from the pressure and immediately rough scales begin rubbing into my neck. I freeze, heart beating wildly and head pounding in confusion. The motion continues. Then a puff of warm air blows against my exposed skin and Kakin is back to glaring down at me. Stuttering, I feel my cheeks warm up. I'm not used to having my personal space invaded like that. Kakin. What did you just do and why? His eyes narrow even more, but are then being blown wide. His gaze rips away from mine to scan the skies, ear flaps twisting. Instantly I'm on edge, earlier moment all but forgotten. What is it, Kakin? He looks over at me, eyes glowing. I search the clouds myself and faintly make out the forms of some dragons flying far overhead. You want to go? I state, seeing some smaller dragons from the opposite end of the beach join the pack. I bite the bottom of my lip as I consider our options. This whole thing started in hopes of getting the Kagutsuchi to be able to fly again. To be able to join his family. As of now he can't do that without me. Okay. I think the fin should hold up. We just tested it after all. With that, I give him a curt nod, pushing my fears to the side and letting curiosity take the forefront as I clamber onto the dragon's back and we fly towards the horizon. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Logsnake on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.